Okay, so I just been reading a book called Outlive by Dr. Attia, up to the cancer chapter, and we've made some massive improvements. There's no doubt about that, but only in some areas. And he's like, hey, cancer's still a problem, but there were some interesting things in the chapter, and it's well worth reading. So one of the interesting things was combinations of treatments that once a cancer is established, then using either combinations of medications or combinations of medications with diet. And the reason he says that is that the cancer cells seem to have a peculiar feature, which is they are highly consumptive of glucose, and they are using that glucose as if it was an anaerobic pathway, instead of the more typical aerobic pathway that cells typically use. And he points out that you usually get 36 ATP for a aerobic aerobic metabolism of a glucose molecule, but if you take it through the anaerobic pathway, you only get 2. And he's like, well, this is curious. And apparently there's some research that suggests that the cancer cells are not after the energy per se, but they're after all of the byproducts in order to continue replicating. And so a diet that starves the body of glucose plus the anti-cancer drugs seem to perform better than those that did not. So that was really interesting. But one of the big things is like, look, the earlier we can detect them, obviously that's a lot better. And so he advocates for going outside of the guidelines in terms of some cancer screening. Now, I've got to say, this triggered a lot of fear in me. I'm like, ooh, going outside the guidelines is an interesting call, because presumably the guidelines are there. Now, his overall argument is that these guidelines are designed for medicine, what he calls medicine 2.0. What we have been able to do so far in terms of treating acute disease, in terms of surgery, that we have opened up these problems of the 4 horsemen: cancer, diabetes, dementia, and cardiovascular disease. And that if we are going to treat those, we need to be picking them up much earlier. And therefore, screening is going to be more important. However, he does bring up the 2 problems with more screening. One, cost, and secondly, false positives. And now he's like, on the overall balance, he's like, we should screen for colonoscopy earlier. And it's hard for me to comment. I'm like, oh, geez, going outside the guidelines, how many more people do we need to find in order to put them through this stuff? Will the specialists even do it? I don't know. So it was a little bit of a confronting chapter for me in terms of, hey, recommendations. But this whole medicine 3.0, he's an American doctor versus being here in Australia. So it is difficult. There's definitely some difficulties. The overall takeaway was we're getting better at cancer, but we're still quite a way away. I'll leave you with one more thought, and that is that the immunotherapies have truly been game-changing when they work. He was like, when the immunotherapy cancer drugs work, they really do make a difference. When they don't, not so much. All right, that's all I got for you. I'm going to go and eat some lunch, and it does seem the overall message, though, is that what we eat does make a difference. And I'm going to go and enjoy some lunch, but not too much. All right, catch you next time.